Hey, welcome to Unshaved. I'm Takesha, and this podcast came to be simply because I wanted to archive conversations between me and my mother. And because we talked about pursuing a creative project together for a long time now, I just figured starting a podcast would kind of fit the bill for both. Our lives and relationship have had many twists, turns, highs, and lows, and the way we've gotten through them always started with raw conversations. We're consistently pursuing a deeper understanding of not only each other and our relationship, but also of ourselves. If the topics and conversations explored in this space help you to navigate your journey in any way, then that's even better. So whether it's just myself or if I'm joined by my mom or other guests, you can expect content that is explorative, honest, and maybe even just a little bit outside the lines. Welcome to Unshaved, and thank you to those of you who have been listening in from the beginning and providing such positive feedback. I really do appreciate you all. Thank you for following, subscribing, liking, and sharing, as well as to those of you who are tuning in for the very first time. Before I get into exactly what you're in for with this 3-part conversation with my mother, I just wanted to explain that the first few minutes were initially going to be something that I just kept for myself. It was something that I wanted to share with my mom prior to us going into this conversation. I decided to keep it because it's real and speaks to how grateful I am that we've been able to come so far. I know it's important for those listening that may have had or now be in similar situations to know that you and your loved ones are not alone, and that the current state of your circumstance, it doesn't mean that that has to be your ending. As the conversation organically progressed, we went into a topic that we knew we'd eventually address. However, it wasn't planned, and we just simply dived in. It goes into the heart of the problems that my mother faced and how they became problems for me in other ways. You'll hear us joke and laugh as we look back on some things that we've had to face in our relationship, but the laughter is not meant to minimize the pain that we've experienced, neither the work that has been put into our individual healing, nor the healing taking place in our relationship in any way. Our lives were egregiously affected by alcohol and drugs. And for a long time, I simply blamed my mother for her choices. I assumed she had the power to control her addiction, and I didn't realize or understand how it was controlling her and how powerless she felt prior to when she went through treatment that she deserved and was in need of. Truth has been revealed about our government's tough on crime policies, the crack crisis, the war on drugs, and even mass incarceration. And it explains how Black communities have been targeted, dismissed, and disregarded without any tangible repercussions for any people other than our people that have been victimized as a result of the greed and ineptitude of people placed in positions of power. I have more of an understanding of the strategically malicious role racist lawmakers and discriminating policies played in our attempted and perpetual destruction. I certainly have more empathy for not only my mother, but for others in our community that have fallen victim to this vile and intentional infiltration. These effects have destroyed the dynamics of too many Black families and has resulted in the disproportionate criminalization of Black people compared to other ethnic groups that struggle with alcohol and drug addiction as well. Netflix has recently released a documentary that explores this devastation to Black communities titled Crack. And it may be difficult to digest, but it certainly provides different angles to take into consideration. So in the first part of this 3-part episode, you will hear my mom go into when and why she turned to drugs. Once you saw that I had an ability that you thought I could shine in, let's say my writing, you think that I am inspirational, you feel like I've been very helpful to you, and that could possibly transcend to me helping others, right? And I've also, worked on myself. You've seen my personal growth. You wanted something from me that I wasn't pursuing myself, even though I felt like I might be decent at it too. But for whatever reason, whether it be fear, just not being ready, or not being certain of it, this is something you were so ready when I said, Ma, let's record our conversations. And it was selfish reasons, specifically because as of late, you love to talk about your mortality, okay? You're constantly talking about life insurance and where you have this and where you have that. Keisha, know that this is what I want. Don't do this. You know what I mean? You don't need to spend a lot of money on me. Da 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 da. I want you to have something. You know, like these are the things you keep talking about. You call me in the middle of the night. You text me weird things like, what would you remember, most about me? Like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, Mom. And I was like, you know what? I value her so much. And I realize how much time I've taken for granted. Meaning that, like when I said, I just really started to look at you and to relate to you in a way that is not just you being my mother. I really do have a lot of respect for who you are as a person. Like your everyday being, like who you are when it doesn't matter if people are looking, people are giving you recognition for it. You know what I mean? Like just who you are at your heart. And when I think about the way you've mothered me, the type of parent you've been, even if it was a little unorthodox, you know what I mean? Just how beneficial it has been to me. And I think that a lot of those years, not including the last 12 for the most part, though we have had some things, you know what I mean, in that time period, but nothing like the previous years before the 12 years ago, right? So I don't think that I value the way, I know that I value you more and more now. And when I think about the idea of a time in my life, because I turned to you so much, when I think about like even Mama, somebody who's been gone for many, many years, and that I, every now and then I might hear her voice, you know what I mean? But I can't remember it the way I may want to when I want to, or her touch, and I think about what I have with you right now, like being present in these moments and how much I value our conversations. They mean the world to me. And I just said, I want to archive because I know if she wasn't here, I would need to hear her. And I know that you're going to be with me in spirit and heart. And this is even if you transition before I do, right? I'm just talking about
Hopefully
it that way.
That's how it'll be.
I know that's what you feel, right? But we don't know that.
I know.
But
hopefully.
But what I'm saying is that if it does come down to that, if that is the way it happens, I feel like our conversations are epic because of what they do for me, on an emotional level, a mental level, a spiritual level. And just, I know that I need you. Do you know what I mean, Ma? Like, I know that I need you. And I was like, damn, I feel like I wouldn't get it wrong. I wouldn't be able to hear exactly what she would say to me. And I wanted to record it for that purpose. And so I said, I know that she would want to do something together. And, if it could help somebody else, if somebody else was interested, that's good or whatever. But I just want it for myself. And that's why I wanted to do this. Because I always want to have your voice, even though I'll have your spirit. Your voice has gotten me through so much. And I mean, I love you. And I appreciate you. And there's no comparing you. I know when I was a child, there were times when I was stupid enough to think that somebody else would have served me better. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. I know that you say that, that I'm your rock, Mom, but you have been my backbone. You have given me strength from distances. I mean, I remember just talking to you and having a conversation where I was in a household with people, adults, sober-minded adults, and you were incarcerated, and you gave me what I needed, the strength that I needed to get through what I was going through as a young person. This is like 7th or 8th grade, I remember, and the conversation that I had with you, and I felt bad. But by the time I got off the phone with you, even if the worst case scenario happened, I knew that I would be able to get through it and that you were on my side. I couldn't thank you enough for that, Ma. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, I can't thank you enough for everything that you are to me now. Thank you. I love you.
Wow. That's a lot, Keisha. Thank you for being who you are. You know, you have helped me want to be a better me. You've helped me do that. You know, I feel like I'm just starting to see. It's like I've been in the dark and in the blind for so long. And up until 12 years ago, I was like lost. And I didn't even, I think I knew it. I'm sure I knew it, but I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know what to do about it, you know, and I know it had to do a lot with how I loved you that brought me to the actions that I took to get to this place I am today. You know, because you did deserve more. You deserved more and I wanted to give it to you. You know, when you say that I have been your backbone, how that touched my heart, because I couldn't imagine being that. I couldn't see how I've been a backbone to you. And I know that has a lot to do with how I feel about myself, or how I did feel about myself. You know, I think I'm just starting to really live and thrive and do things, you know, as I should be.
You know, I can get that, because I feel like up until maybe my mid-20s, at least, I just felt like I was going through the motions.
Yeah.
I was just in a survival mode. I feel like at that point was when I really started to live and learn, like really learn more than survival skills.
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to open myself up to me, the truth of who I was at that time, the fact that there was a lot that I didn't like, a lot that I felt that I could improve, even if I didn't know every answer. You know, I started to discover that it was already within me, and the capability was there, right? Mm-hmm. And I knew that even if I could have had someone else tell me the answers, I would get more reward from working through them and figuring them out myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, that was my problem. Not feeling worthy. You know, not liking who I was. And this started at a very young age. Not liking who I was. You know, I didn't know that feeling could take on such a negative persona as time went on. But it did. You know, I remember starting to venture in drugs at the age of 16. And I don't know, but I was like, this is it. I found the answer to my problems.
Something that made you feel better.
Yes. Yes. Little did I know it was the beginning to all of my problems. And it was happening continuously for a long time. A long time. I didn't realize, and it was at a point where I felt that was just how it was going to be.
When you say that it was how it was going to be, that are you talking about once you got to the point of being addicted?
Yes. At that point, I thought it was, this is my life.
This is who I am now.
Yes. I didn't know I could change that. I wanted to stop, but I just didn't know how.
So I, can't relate to that experience, but I have heard where someone would have said that after the first high, you're chasing that high. Now, and also I know that, from the things we've talked about in the past, that there were different stages and different drugs. Like, if you could take me back, was it the first thing? Was it that pill? Was it the pill that you took?
Yes. Yellow sunshine.
Yellow sunshine. Okay. And this is like a
hallucinating drug.
Okay.
And that, I learned from that experience. I did not like that. Seeing things that weren't there, ending up where my father was employed at St. Elizabeth, that was not my drug. That was not my drug. Right. I did not like that.
So hold on. Was Granddad at work when you?
No. They took me to St. Elizabeth early that morning. So I think he was there. Because I think at some point I told them my father works here. And I remember my father coming there and talking to me, but I think I still had to stay there for like 2 or 3 days. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But, yeah, that's when I found out I can't do hallucination drugs.
So your gateway drug wasn't like marijuana?
No.
You went straight to a pill?
No. Actually, it started with Boone's Farm. Boone's Farm. That's a wine. Boone's Farm, Wild Irish Rose. It just started with wine.
Okay.
And
this is at 16 or earlier?
16.
So were you like hanging out at a party? Was one of your best friends or something?
Girl, this was on school grounds.
Oh God. Oh gosh.
Yes. This was on school grounds.
Okay.
Yes.
Eastern? Is that
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It was on school grounds where I did this. Like at lunchtime, Eastern has a nice, pretty lawn out front, and we sit out there and we were drinking.
Jeez.
We had them in contained bags and bottles.
Okay.
And straws.
I don't think I've ever knew this.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. All right.
And it was during that year that I ended up across the street from Eastern in an apartment building where it was a powder drug. People were snorting it. And I snorted it for three times. And then the fourth time I went over there, I saw somebody shoot up and instantly went into a nod. I'm like, shucks, I want to do it like that. Because it took a minute getting to a nod, snorting it. So I'm like, I want to do it the faster way.
And this was at 16?
Yes, ma'am.
I did not know, Mom, that your first experience with shooting up any type of drug was at 16.
Yes. Mind you, I didn't get addicted then.
Okay.
I didn't get addicted then. It was a thing like I would do that for the school year, and then I would stop. I didn't have no repercussions. I didn't get sick or anything like that. as a matter of fact, and most people who've been addicted to heroin, it's hard to believe that it took me years to actually get a habit. As a matter of fact, I think I talked myself up on it because I used to, when I was in a group of people that would say they were sick, they have to get some drugs, I would say I was sick too. I had no idea what sick was at that time.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and I did that for years, saying I was sick and wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
For years. Actually, to be honest, Keisha, I didn't start actually getting sick until after I had you. After I had you, maybe a year or two after I had you, was when I actually started to really
go through withdrawals.
Exactly.
And
understanding being what it felt like to be sick without it.
Okay.
Because like I used to stop for weeks. Nah, I don't feel like shooting up no more. And I didn't. I did that. When I was in Hampton, before I went to Hampton, I was shooting up that whole year before I went to Hampton.
But when you were at school in Hampton, you didn't have access to drugs, right?
No, I had access to drugs, but not heroin.
Okay. Well,
that's when I was smoking weed.
Interesting. Okay.
You know, I was smoking weed.
And so from your experience with other people that you've known to be on these drugs, that was very uncommon.
Yes. Very uncommon for you to shoot heroin for 3 months and not get a habit. A bona fide habit is what they would call it.
Okay.
You know, but like, it's true. But when I go back, I'm like, I talked myself up on it. Because a lot of times I wasn't sick. The people I was hanging with was sick, you know, and well, they say ill.
Were you under the impression that you were? Did you think you were at that time?
I knew I wasn't.
Okay, so you were just saying that to
I was fitting in.
Yeah, okay.
Fitting in. No.
So, just to backtrack a little bit, when you first started with the Boons and what did you call it? English something? Irish something?
Wild Irish.
Oh, Wild Irish. Okay.
And Boone's Farm.
Okay. So, were you fitting in at that point too, or were you just curious? What was it?
It probably was a combination of both.
Okay.
I've been fitting in most of my life, Keisha, because of how a child made me feel in elementary school. And I held on to that. I held on to it. And because the kid, we was in a circle. He had to be on my right hand side. And you know, when somebody holds my right hand, you can kind of tell there's some fingers missing. And the kid screamed up and down, a monster, you know? And I cried and I never got over that. I felt ugly, like nobody would like me. But this is the hit. As I grew up, you know, I was still feeling that, but at some point I used that to my advantage with my parents. Because like I used it to manipulate my parents into giving me whatever it was I wanted. I would say because of my fingers.
And what's very interesting about that is that this is a genetic thing. It's hereditary. We have many people in our family,
yes,
especially with your siblings, who have the same thing, even your mother.
Exactly.
Right? And didn't her grandmother have an issue with her hands, if I'm not mistaken?
Her grandmother, yes. Her fingers were never split.
So they were webbed?
Just these two fingers on each hand.
Okay.
Yes, and this is how my mom's fingers were. Mm-hmm. But they were split open, you know?
So even though, you know, this wasn't uncommon in your household, right?
Right.
You were still able to manipulate your parents with this? They weren't like, hey, cut it out.
But because like they always ask me, what is wrong? What's wrong? You know? And I was like, nobody likes me. It's my fingers. My father used to always say, if I could give you my hands, I would. Now, to myself, I used to say, yeah, right. I didn't believe that. I knew it wasn't possible, but yes. And they felt to give me things would make me feel better about myself. Actually, it didn't. It only gave me another avenue to get what I wanted. That's what it did. That's what it did for me.
Mm-hmm. And it never helped you to get comfortable with who you were
never.
Physically.
Because my mother was adamant. Nothing's wrong with you. You like any other child, But I wasn't. I want to say I told this story to myself for so long, but I don't know if it would have worked or not. I say to myself, if my mother had warned me before I went to school that kids may make fun of me and talk about me and laugh because my fingers are not like theirs, I think I would have been more prepared. This was my thought. But I don't know if that would have happened like that or not. I don't know if that would have helped me or not. But today I know that my parents did the best they could.
Of course. I appreciate that you made time to listen in to this episode of Unshaved. Thank you. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for topics to explore, please email unshaved.podcast@gmail.com and be sure to indicate if you'd want to be mentioned if your feedback or questions are addressed here on Unshaved. Also, you can show the show some love by following, sharing, and or donating. Last but not least, remember you can turn on your notifications so you'll know when we're back with new episodes. Till then, let's continue to live with love and light.